My name is Evelyn Ruth Gardner. Granny Evie, if you stop by with decent manners. 79. Joplin born, wind raised. I'll lay this out like fence posts. Straight, tamped, and in order. Calvin Mercer, my father, ran our acreage like a courthouse with one judge and no jury. Boots on at 4, rules stapled to daylight. He collected boys the way a swollen creek gathers boards. Uncle's sons, a widow's twins, a cousin nobody wanted after a move west. 16 over the years, plus my 2 brothers. I was the only girl. From the blacktop, we looked righteous. Clean porch, fat hogs, hymns on Sunday. Down the west hall, a door with a slide bolt said the real part out loud. Mama Louise kept water boiling and opinions low. I learned to read the world by sound. Dust lines telling who was coming, the screen door's snap-telling mood, the softness of a voice telling rank. Fridays mattered. Calvin drove to the county seat for checks and stamped papers. When his blue Ford topped the washboard hill, the house held its breath. The first Friday I was 14. Ray, the oldest, square as a freezer, said I needed instruction. He steered me to the tool room. The bolt bit. Curtain never stirred. It wasn't for light. You already know what a locked room means. This is a ledger, not a sermon. A sequence began. Chair in the corner, basin against the wall. Footsteps I learned to count like lessons nobody asked me to take. By dusk, the Ford rumbled back. Supper clinked quiet, and Calvin complimented the roast. Week 3 showed a hairline crack. Nathaniel Bristow, Nate, left-handed, jaw like a mule, always drifted to last, then vanished for a chore or a bellyache. The others jeered. Ray let it pass because time ran short. I filed Nate under useful. No rescue was coming from the road. Dust swallows truth. If a fix existed, it lived inside. Men guard 2 things harder than sin: money and standing. Calvin loved both. He liked his name spelled right on deeds, and neighbors saying, Mr. Mercer, like a salutation. If rot leaked, doors would stop opening. My tool came gift-wrapped in foolishness. Calvin bought a little battery recorder from Crowley's Hardware, red glass eye, thumb switch, to remember the good parts of his deals. He recorded Grace at supper and played it back tinny while boys laughed at their own voices. He set it on his office shelf like a trophy and went to bed. That night, I slid past the talkative floorboard, lifted the recorder, and hid it under a jar of marbles in my dresser. At dawn, I left a white stone at the smokehouse pump, our farm's quiet code for come. Nate found it after buckets. Behind the sweet gum, I said, "You hate it." He watched the yard the way a skittish colt watches a snake. "Ain't right," he said. "Been hiding behind the ice house 2 Fridays. Let 'em call me Chicken." "Good," I said. "Help me end it." "How?" "Make Calvin hear his kingdom the way strangers would." I taught him the switch. When the bolt drops, I'll slide it under the chair. If the cord snags, you distract Ray. At dusk, I'll pocket it. Sunday morning, you take it to Calvin and say 4 words. "Sir, you should know." Then shut up. "He'll skin me." "He'll promote you," I said. "You're offering him a throne in public." Friday came clean and hot. Calvin's Ford dwindled to a shimmer. Ray fetched me with the usual script. While he checked the hall for stragglers, I crouched like I'd dropped a pin, thumbed the switch, pushed the box beneath the chair, and stood. Hours moved like a bad gear. Voices stacked, commands, bragging, a whisper of apology that proved knowledge. I labeled each voice in my head like items on an invoice. At the first cough of the Ford on the far grade, I palmed the device, tucked it against my ribs, and walked to my room, slow as you carry boiling coffee. It slid into the drawer under cotton slips and stayed breathing there. Saturday went silent. Sunday before church, Nate walked to Calvin on the porch, recorder in both hands. Sir, found this under the step. I listened. Sir, you should know. Calvin held it like a live snake. He closed his office door. 10 minutes lengthened to 30. I fed hens until the mash turned to dust. Bootsteps, his verdict moving through boards. Ray, Peter, Joel, all of you, now. The door slammed back against plaster. The boys filed in. The noise rose, cracked, then settled into the kind of quiet that means men are measuring exits with their eyes. Calvin marched them into the yard. Evie, he said without looking, stand there. Not compassion, control with a witness. He raised the recorder. This box holds your mouths, your deeds, my name tied to your filth. He paced lines into the dirt. When he thought hard, he didn't swing. He sentenced. You broke rank. You gambled my title. You decided Mercer men turn to dogs when the truck leaves the lane. Ray started a lie. We thought. You don't think, Calvin cut. I think. You follow. He stripped them clean. No town Saturdays, no keys, no say on feed. Last at the table. Ringleaders moved to pallets in the machine shed. Their bunks went to small boys who still slept easy. He pointed at Nate. Bristow, you told me. Yard foreman now. If one body goes missing on my time, you ride a bus with no sandwich. He faced me. Your bed goes to the main wing. Lock on the door. You answer to your mother or to me. Any man steps toward you without leave, breaks his hands on my rail. He fetched a kerosene can, handed it to Ray, walked to the west wing door, and said one word, burn. Boards caught. The chair folded. Smoke smeared the eaves. Calvin watched long enough for the lesson to stick, then set the recorder on his shelf again like a pistol with the safety off. The Friday drill died that day. Calvin didn't turn holy. He turned careful. It suited his throne and saved my skin. I didn't bolt. Nowhere to land. No money to carry me. So I pivoted to exit by paper. Finished high school by mail. Miss Ames drove out with Tess tucked under a Bible, then took a counter job at Witt's Pharmacy. I learned tills, invoices, and how the sheriff's wife told a story when she wanted it to travel. At 18, I married Arthur Blake, a quiet mechanic who could rebuild a carburetor before water boiled and never asked for explanations I didn't offer. We rented a duplex by the rail yard. I mailed Mama small bills in envelopes marked L. Mercer, so she didn't have to ask Calvin. Nate kept his new post and improved it. No more barracks sleeping, tasks split, door frames open so secrets ran out of places to hide. Years did what years do. Arthur opened a garage. I worked mornings at the clerk's office and nights in a church basement where women brought envelopes they didn't understand and boys brought bruises they couldn't name. My kit stayed simple. Legal pad, carbon paper, stapler, phone list. One rule that scares fraud better than a shotgun. If it's real, it can stand on a counter under bright light. When Calvin's lungs quit before his pride did, I visited once. No speeches. I set the county deed book on his tray, tapped the Mercer entry he used to trace like scripture. I know who I am, I said, and who I'm not. He stared like paper had turned to mirror. Ray led crews in Arkansas and never came back. Peter discovered a choir and tried to drown memory in bass. Joel chose a bottle. Nate bought the South pasture on a note I co-signed and stocked it with cows that still pay for sneakers I'll never see. I kept the recorder in my kitchen drawer between the jar opener and stamps. I don't play it. I keep it to remember a fact folks forget. A box can hold secrets or evidence. Choose evidence. That's enough for a first telling. You want soft music? Switch stations. My tune is fluorescent. Countertop bright. Find the lever. Set the trap. Make the man who thinks he owns you pick between his title and his habit. He'll take the title. You take the bolt. Part 2. The Counter Rule. Arthur and I settled in a duplex that shimmied when freights rolled past. He turned a patchwork garage into Blake Motors. I turned a folding table in the church basement into something that looked like mercy in fluorescent light. Folks came with envelopes in panic. I kept it simple: pad, carbon paper, a tin box of stamps, and one sentence: if it's real, it stands at a counter. Word traveled faster than gossip when somebody got to keep their house. Thursday nights grew from 3 chairs to 20. I didn't preach. I stacked steps. Read, call, verify, witness, copy. A woman with a forged grandson trying to move in left with a fraud report, and a neighbor willing to sit at her kitchen until morning. A roofer who wanted cash heard my phone click to the licensing board and decided asphalt shingles could wait. Calvin stayed alive and mean. He didn't touch me again. Fear of reputation is stronger than whiskey, but he kept his hand on the ledger. Then he made a move that told me the old wolf still wanted his teeth back. Mama called from a payphone, quarters trembling. "Your daddy's bringing a lady to supper," she said. "Says she's a helper. Says the house papers need adjusting. Name? Darla Pierce. Smile like a catalog. Has a leather folio and a notary stamp." I hung up, drove to the clerk's office early, and pulled Mercer deeds. The house stood free and clear. No liens, no trusts, no transfers. Clean paper is easy to ruin. I made copies and slid them into my bag. Then I did 2 more things. Rang the bank manager who owed me for finding his mother's lost insurance last winter, and called Nate. "West Wing at 6, I told him. "Bring your eyes and 2 steady men." Darla walked in with the kind of smile you can return for store credit. Fashion haircut, stiff blazer, folio tucked like a hymn book. Calvin preened. "Evie, this is Miss Pierce. She helps families plan." I set coffee, poured slow, bought time. Darla opened the folio. Out came a living trust, a transfer on death deed, a durable power, and a confidential addendum with a signature line for Mama 3 times the size of the rest. "We'll just notarize right here," she sang. "So convenient." "Counters are convenient," I said. "Banks, courthouse, daylight." Calvin's jaw twitched. "We don't need town. We got a notary." "Mobile notaries stand at counters too," I said. "How do you know Mama's signature?" Darla flashed the stamp. "State commissioned, ma'am." The state didn't meet my mother. She slid the forms over like they were buttered. "Mrs. Mercer, sign here, here, and initial here." Mama picked up the pen the way you pick up a snake by the tail. I slid the clerk's copies onto the table between us. "Here's the current deed," I said. "Here's the legal description. Here's the title history. Before any change, I need a minute with my—" I let the word hang. "Client." Calvin leaned back, proud as a rooster. Your mama's no client. She's my wife. Wives can be clients. Clients can be wives. Either way, nobody signs in a kitchen without witnesses. Right then, Nate stepped into the doorway with two men in feed caps, neighbors who learned the counter rule when a fake roofing crew tried to strip their barn. Behind them came Mr. Foley in his bank tie, because favors breed favors. I'd told him there might be a funny transfer on death deed trying to slide through his branch. He'd come to watch with a neutral face and a legal pad. Darla's smile cracked. We don't need an audience. Important papers enjoy them, I said. She pivoted to Mama, quicker than a hawk. Mrs. Mercer, this trust will protect you. You'll have income and avoid probate. Calvin will remain trustee, and this addendum ensures household management stays with experienced hands. I plucked the addendum. Funny. The addendum lists Darla Pierce as successor trustee if Calvin becomes incapacitated. You move fast. Calvin shot her a look he thought no one would notice. We talked about help. You talked about headlines, I said. Your name on gifts at church? Your name on a plague? Oops, plaque. He went red. Evie, don't be crude. Mr. Foley coughed into his cuff. Ms. Pierce, would you mind showing your notary journal? She didn't blink. Left it in the car. Against state law, Mr. Foley said mildly. Journals travel with stamps. Nate stepped closer to the window, flipped the shade up so the last light hit the table. Papers look worse in glare. The legal description on Darla's deed used 3 commas where our plats used 2. The parcel number was 1 digit off. Small errors that blow up fast. On purpose if you want to slide a second deed later. I circled them with a pencil. Typo or trap? Darla kept her voice sweet. Clerical oversight. Which clerk? I asked. I'd hate to embarrass a public servant. She lifted her stamp again, but even Calvin could smell the scorch now. He went cold. Louise, go get my ledger. We'll do this proper when we've checked everything. Darla pressed. Timing matters, Mr. Mercer. If we don't record by tomorrow, new fees. Tomorrow's Sunday, I said. Her eyes cut to mine. Snake to boot heel. Then Monday. Counters open at 8, Mr. Foley said. You can meet us there. That ended phase 1. Darla Trash smiled, gathered her papers, and left with promises. Nate followed her truck out to the gravel and wrote down the plate. Mr. Foley squeezed my elbow. If she brings those to my branch, I'll call the recorder and the sheriff at the same time. We weren't done. Con men don't go home after one no. They go around. That night, I moved Mama into the main wing, slid a chair under her doorknob, and brewed a pot that could strip paint. At dawn, I called the recorder and placed an informal alert on the Mercer parcel. Possible fraudulent conveyance, escalate to council. Then I drafted 3 letters. Revoking any prior powers of attorney nobody remembered signing. Commanding banks to freeze any trust accounts pending legal review, and ordering Darla, by certified mail, to cease contact with Louise Mercer. I copied everything twice and put 1 set in Mama's Bible. People don't steal from Bibles in houses that fear God, even if they should. Darla tried the bank before lunch. Foley met her with glass and formality. We'd be delighted to assist, he said, loud enough for the lobby. Please step to the counter so we can verify the trust, the parcel, and the notary journal. She left without a deposit slip. By 3, she'd turned to the back door trick, an emergency notarization in a pickup. A man in a feed cap ready to witness for cash. Nate walked up with his foreman face and asked for ID. The witness didn't have any. The pickup rolled. At 4, the sheriff's cruiser idled under our maple. I hadn't called him. The deputy had seen Darla's truck making house stops on his beat and recognized the pattern. He took my packet and said the 4 words I like better than apologies. "We'll take it from here." Calvin sulked until supper, then worked the same old lever. "You're dramatic, Evie." "I was protecting your mother." "You were protecting your name," I said. "I did the same. You can thank me or you can hush." He chose hush. Smart for once. That night I wrote the rule on a card and taped it above Mama's stove. No porch signings. Counters only. Names spelled right. Dates checked twice. 2 witnesses with 2 IDs. She read it out loud like a prayer. A week later, the recorder's office sent a note. Attempted filing rejected. Incorrect parcel number. Defective notary. Signature mismatch. County Council opened an investigation. Darla's truck stopped showing up on county roads. Folks said she moved 2 counties over. Scams travel, but so do rules. On Thursday, I told the church crowd the story without names. We passed around a blank transfer on death deed so everyone could learn where danger hides. In addenda, in commas, in help. Mrs. Alvarez stood, thin as twine, and said, "My brother brought a man like that last month. I told him we only sign where the lights hum." We built a new move that night. Counter ambush. If a slick stranger tries a kitchen put-over, 3 neighbors show with clipboards. 1 calls the bank. 1 reads parcel numbers. 1 holds a phone to a deputy. The rest make coffee and keep time slow. Arthur listened, wiping his hands on a rag from the garage, and shook his head. Never thought a stapler could hit harder than a wrench. "Depends where you swing," I said. Calvin didn't become better. He became careful. He moved slower around paper and stopped inviting helpers. The family did the same. Ray called once asking if I'd look at a contract for a crew he wanted to run in Arkansas. I said yes, at a counter. He didn't come. People who want tricks hate bright rooms. Years later, when Mama died, we filed her name on the appropriate line. No trusts, no surprises. The clerk handed me the stamped copy and said, "That's clean work." I walked it to the counter anyway and made 1 more copy for the church kit. If you want the lesson neat, fists bruise and fade, paperwork bruises and stays. Learn it. Teach it. Use it like a pry bar. When a predator says, "Sign here, save time," set a chair, lift the shade, and invite an audience. Monsters don't like humming lights or lined forms. They go quiet. And quiet is where you win. Part 3. Auction Turnabout. The call came at sunup. Nate never wasted syllables. "Gates got a yellow paper, Evie. Says sheriff's sale today at 2. South pasture. Lists my baler, both feeders, and the herd. Says I pledged 'em on a note I never saw. Signature looks like somebody dragged my name with a nail." I was dressed before the dial tone quit. My kit lived by the door. Red folder, carbon sets, a roll of quarters, 2 ink pads, and a hand stamp that says "Received." Arthur backed the record to the curb without questions. "Blocking duty?" he asked. "Gate and lane," I said. "Put that tow truck where it makes the law read." On the kitchen table I drew a map. Courthouse at noon, pasture at 1:30, sale set for 2. Then I started stacking paper like fence rails. Claim of exemption, motion to quash writ, demand for plaintiff's bond, Third-party ownership affidavit for anything with a serial number. Predators count on silence. I make noise. Names first. The notice named Breck Hollis, attorney-in-fact for Ray Mercer Holdings. There it was. Ray, dragging his own shame like a snared coyote. I rang Mr. Foley. Got a man trying to sell what isn't his, I said. I'll need the clerk hot and the recorder ready. Bring me the parcel and plate, he said. I'll have 2 windows open. By 9, I had a copy of Nate's brand registration, bills of sale on the Baylor and Headgate, and a printout showing no UCC lien filed in our county under Nate's name. The notice's parcel number matched his pasture. The lien number did not exist. Cute trick. Bluff with a number that points nowhere, and hope the deputy just reads the top line. At 10 sharp, I slid into the clerk's office. They know me. I don't hold the line up. I make it work. Emergency motion, I said, sliding the first set. The clerk time-stamped each face page with the grace of a dance partner. Foley's runner grabbed the duplicates for recorder. I sent the sheriff a fax stamped with our magic word, filed. By 11:30, Arthur's wrecker sat crosswise in Nate's lane like a patient mule. 2 neighbors in feed caps stood with clipboards. We weren't there to wrestle. We were there to clock and witness. Nate walked the fence line, counted stock, photographed ear tags, and wrote the time under each image. It looks fussy until a judge asks what was present. At 1, a brown Suburban rolled up. Auctioneer, a deputy I didn't know, and a man in a peach shirt with a briefcase too new to be honest. Breck had salesman hair and county mud on his tires, like he'd borrowed it for the day. He hopped out, smiling. Ladies and gents, we'll keep this cordial. Debtor pledged equipment and cattle for a feed note. Default. Simple business. Then it can stand in front of a judge, I said, stepping out. I handed the deputy a stamped motion to quash with a receipt time that beat their engine shut off by 4 minutes. No bond posted by plaintiff, no verified inventory, defective notice, and unperfected security interest. That's 4 strikes. Sales stayed. The deputy read like a man caught between a whistle and a train. Ma'am, you don't have to, I said. Your lawyer will. But you do have to respect a clock. That stamp says these papers exist. You move on this sale. You buy yourself personal liability. Breck's smile tightened. You people love theatrics. Mr. Mercer empowered me to act. I have his signature. He slid out a flimsy power of attorney with Ray's scrawl and a notary seal that looked like it had been kissed by a potato. I held it to the sun. County commission number doesn't match any notary in the state. Journal entries required by law are, where? In the office. Journals travel with stamps, I said. I handed Breck a certified cease contact letter addressed to him personally. You may consider yourself warned. Any step forward is a step into court. Ray's dust cloud arrived like a bad thought. Old pickup, eyes like he hadn't slept in 2 nights. He climbed out slow, saw Nate's face, saw mine, then fixed on Breck. You said it was paperwork, he muttered. You said he'd never know. He knows, I said. Everybody knows. You can either sign a repudiation right now, witnessed by 3 neighbors and a deputy, or you can ride to town in the back of that cruiser on notary fraud and attempted conversion. Pick. I set a single page on the hood. Affidavit of disavowal and assignment of any interest. Blank spaces for names. A paragraph that said in plain words, Ray had no right and was done pretending he did. I didn't soften it. Paper only hurts when it's sharp. Ray's hands shook. He read. He took the pen like a man who's finally seen the last exit and doesn't want to miss it. He signed. I pointed. Print your name. Today's date. Time. Say out loud you understand. He did. Our clipboards wrote it down. The deputy initialed the bottom without being asked. Breck started to object. The deputy lifted one palm and decided he liked the motion to quash after all. I turned to the auctioneer. You have nothing to sell. If you open your mouth, it will be to apologize for driving on private land without cause. He swallowed his chant. Apologies, folks. Miscommunication. Spell it, I said. Miskamu, Nika, Tion. Good boy. They left in less of a convoy than they arrived. The deputy took my packet for his sergeant. Breck burned rubber he hadn't earned. Ray stood there, pinned by the absence of his bravado. Nate looked like a man who'd held a breath for 2 hours and finally found oxygen. Don't think that makes us brothers, Nate told Ray. It makes us quit even. I wasn't done. In town, I filed a UCC-1 on Nate's equipment in his own name to announce to the world what was his. Then we painted the last 6 of each serial number in big digits on metal tags and riveted them to frames where even a lazy deputy could see. We snapped photos and stapled receipts. Paper armor. That night in the church basement, I added a new page to the kit. Auction turnabout. It fit on one sheet. Step 1. Pull the file. Does a lien even exist? Step 2. Clock the sale. Stamp something before they do. Step 3. Collect your proof. Bills of sale, model plates, photos with time, brand cards. Step 4. Demand a bond. Make the plaintiff put real money in a courthouse window. Step 5. Make them spell the story in daylight. Old Mr. Griggs raised a hand. What if they just take it anyway? Then we already have your replevin typed, I said, lifting a fresh carbon set. And 6 people who watch them ignore a stamped stay. Calvin heard the tale. Country carries news like wind carries chaff. He didn't call. He didn't need to. He understood the message written in the day's work. His tricks were old. Our counters were newer. A week later, the county attorney filed on Breck for unlawful practice and false notary. The case didn't make the paper, but it made the rounds where it mattered. Outside feed stores, under courthouse steps, in barber chairs. I kept a copy of the charging sheet in my drawer with the recorder. Tools and trophies belonged together. We built one more habit after that. Colored tags on every big thing. Blue for cattle equipment, red for vehicles, yellow for tools. Each tag tied to a page in our loose leaf with receipts and dates. If a man in a peach shirt shows up with a smile and a lie, we don't argue. We open the book, point at the light, and let him drown in ink. That's how I do revenge now. No knives, no midnight. Counters, clocks, and a pen that doesn't run dry. You show up to steal, I show up to file. You bring muscle, I bring witnesses. You bring a fake seal, I bring a real stamp that says exactly when you lost. Part 4, The Guardianship Gambit. The letter wore courthouse cologne, cheap toner, and hurry. Emergency guardianship for Louise Mercer, it said, signed by a lawyer who prints his name bigger than his client's. Petitioner, Ray Mercer. Hearing, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Goal, seize Mama's accounts for her protection. Translation, reach into a widow's pocket while the ink's still drying on the spider web. I didn't call to argue. I made a list. 1. Lock the money. 2. Anchor the house. 3. Cut off the back doors. 4. Put a sane voice in front of the judge before Ray's story hardens. Step 1 started with 3 phones. I rang Mama's credit union, her small bank, and the farm co-op line of credit. Place a courtesy hold for suspected exploitation, I told each, using those words exactly. Note: pending guardianship contest. Add a callback password. Honeysuckle. No releases without in-branch ID and that word. I followed with faxes bearing my durable power of attorney, properly executed years earlier, when Calvin still breathed like a coal stove, plus a brand new notice of suspicious activity on my letterhead. Banks love checklists. I fed them one. Step 2. Recorder's office. I drafted a notice of personal residence claim. For Mama's house, referencing the old deed and the life estate clause Calvin left because he cared more about structures than souls. I stapled an affidavit from Miss Ames, retired teacher, neighbor, eyes better than any notary, attesting that Mama lives there, pays her utilities herself, and walks her little yappy dog daily. I filed it before lunch. Paper on top of paper makes a wall. Step 3. Hospitals. Guardianship hustlers live on surprise admissions and capacity letters written by strangers at 4:55 p.m. I put our doctor on notice. No letters about competence without calling me. No transfers. If Ray appears, page security. Dr. Patel faxed back a one-liner. Patient-oriented, competent to manage personal affairs. No medical basis for involuntary guardianship. That sentence weighs more than a sermon. Step 4. Court. I pulled the file. Ray's petition was a copy and paste. Boxes checked for confused, forgets to eat, unsafe at home, plus a paragraph smearing me as estranged. Cute. I drafted our response. Opposition to temporary guardianship and motion to dismiss. Exhibits. Doctor. Patel's letter. Copies of Mama's paid utility bills. My POA. 3 affidavits from neighbors. Photos of her pantry organized tighter than the pharmacy shelf, and a video of Mama reading me tomorrow's grocery list with dates, prices, and coupon codes. I burned the video to a thumb drive and also printed a transcript because judges trust paper more than pixels. By dusk, the packet was stapled, indexed, and stamped, received NC. In 2 offices. I dropped copies at the sheriff's desk with a 1-page memo. If anyone tries a welfare check at Mama's with Ray's name, send a sergeant, not a rookie. Then I went to Mama. She was shelling peas by the sink, radio low, hair pinned like the day I was 10. We doing court in the morning? She asked without looking up. We are. Wear your flats, she said. Those floors squeak if you hurry. Ray's truck rolled past after dark, slow as a tick. He parked 2 houses down like the law can't count headlights. I turned on the porch light and held up my phone while it filmed his silhouette. He left. Court smelled like coffee and wax. I sat front row with my red folder, Arthur behind me with a thermos, and a face that says, "Don't." Ray came in with his peach shirt friend from the auction fiasco and that same new briefcase. The judge, a woman who could iron metal with her gaze, called us up. Emergency guardianship for Ms. Mercer, she said. Petitioner, proceed. Peach Shirt launched into a monologue about confusion, unpaid bills, unsafe stove knobs, predatory salesmen. He waved a capacity letter on letterhead from a clinic I'd never heard of. Who wrote that? The judge asked. Dr. Kessler. Is Dr. Kessler here? No, Your Honor. Not helpful, she said, turning to me. Respondent? I slid our packet across. Opposition with exhibits A through L. Also, a thumb drive showing Ms. Mercer managing daily life. I didn't say better than you. Adjudicators appreciate mercy in tone, cruelty in evidence. She read Dr. Patel's note first, then Bill's, then the POA. She watched 40 seconds of Mama discussing the price of ground chuck. She glanced at Ray. Mr. Mercer, why did you not contact the existing agent under a durable power of attorney before asking this court to strip your mother of her rights? Pete's shirt jumped. Because the agent is hostile. Hostility is not a diagnosis, the judge said, and this court does not appoint guardians to relieve family squabbles. I handed over a second packet. Motion for sanctions and order to show cause RE exploitation attempt. 5 pages, plain language, 3 requests, deny, warn, and bar Ray from filing ex parte without notice for a year. Ray tried a different tack. She's lonely, he said, as if that buys a key to the safe. She has a dog and a radio, I said. She also has me. The judge ticked with her pen. Petition denied. Temporary guardianship not granted. I find no evidence supporting incapacity. Further, petitioner is admonished. Any attempt to use law enforcement as a cudgel will invite sanctions. Ms. Gardner's agent remains in place. Mr. Mercer, if you believe your mother needs help, buy her groceries and mow her lawn. Do not weaponize this courtroom. Gavel, not hard, just enough. I filed out without looking at Ray. Outside, the hallway did what hallways do, carried whispers. Pete's shirt hissed about appeals. Ray muttered about how the family used to obey. I held the door for a bailiff and let their voices trail into the stairwell where they belong. We weren't done. Guardianship vultures circle twice. So we built fences closer to the house. We changed Mama's phone plan and added call screen. Unknown numbers go to a recording that says, "State your name." Scammers hate mirrors. We installed a mailbox lock and moved bills to online autopay with alerts to me and Dr. Patel's nurse. 2 sets of eyes beat 1. We added a do not consent and sign inside the screen door in 18-point font. No entry without a warrant or medical order. Call daughter at Nummergarakshar first. People may ignore a voice. They rarely ignore laminated cardstock. We recorded a declaration of pre-need guardian. 1 page where Mama chose me if anything ever changes, signed in front of 2 witnesses who spelled their names slowly. It went in the court file like a bookmark the judge can't miss. Thursday night at clinic, I taught a new drill. Guardianship gambit. 4 moves, no drama. 1. Advance work. POA while everyone's healthy. 2 originals. 1 at home, 1 at the bank. 2. Friction. Passwords at banks. No letters without call with the doctor. A neighbor list for patrol dispatch. 3. Paperweight. File a notice at recorder that the home is occupied by its owner. Abusers hate recorded facts. 4. Court kit. Opposition template, doctor letter, 3 affidavits, photos of medications in labeled trays, and a 60-second video of the elder saying their name, the date, and their plan. A man in the back raised a hand. What if we don't have a doctor who likes paperwork? Find a nurse practitioner who does, I said. Capacity is a clinical observation, not a poem. 2 sentences are enough if they're true and signed. Ray kept his distance after the hearing, but I saw his truck once more, parked outside a predatory lawyer's office with a blinking neon free consultee sign. I mailed that lawyer a copy of the order and a polite letter. My mother is not a project. Please route your energy elsewhere. Sometimes you don't swat, you signal. Mama and I celebrated with cornbread and beans. She folded her napkin like a triangle and patted my hand. Men try doors, she said. You make keys. Locks, I corrected. Same difference if they keep the right folks in and the wrong ones out. That night I filed one more thing, a masi. Notice of hearing outcome. To every bank, insurer, and clinic, with the judge's order attached. Not for today, for 3 years from now, when some clerk gets a call from a peach shirt and reaches for a form. My letter will be closer. That's revenge in old age. Not fireworks, fixtures. You rehang the door so it won't swing for thieves. And when a man named Mercer tries to turn a courtroom into a barn, you make him spell capacity, notice, and denied under bright lights while a judge watches his mouth. Part 2. The Counter Rule. Arthur and I settled in a duplex that shimmied when freights rolled past. He turned a patchwork garage into Blake Motors. I turned a folding table in the church basement into something that looked like mercy in fluorescent light. Folks came with envelopes and panic. I kept it simple. Pad, carbon paper, a tin box of stamps, and one sentence. If it's real, it stands at a counter. Word traveled faster than gossip when somebody got to keep their house. Thursday nights grew from 3 chairs to 20. I didn't preach. I stacked steps. Read, call, verify, witness, copy. A woman with a forged grandson trying to move in left with a fraud report, and a neighbor willing to sit at her kitchen until morning. A roofer who wanted cash heard my phone click to the licensing board and decided asphalt shingles could wait. Calvin stayed alive and mean. He didn't touch me again. Fear of reputation is stronger than whiskey. But he kept his hand on the ledger. Then he made a move that told me the old wolf still wanted his teeth back. Mama called from a payphone, quarters trembling. "Your daddy's bringing a lady to supper," she said. "Says she's a helper. Says the house papers need adjusting. Name? Darla Pierce. Smile like a catalog. Has a leather folio and a notary stamp." I hung up, drove to the clerk's office early, and pulled Mercer deeds. The house stood free and clear. No liens, no trusts, no transfers. Clean paper is easy to ruin. I made copies and slid them into my bag. Then I did 2 more things. Rang the bank manager who owed me for finding his mother's lost insurance last winter, and called Nate. "West Wing at 6, I told him. "Bring your eyes and 2 steady men." Darla walked in with the kind of smile you can return for store credit. Fashion haircut, stiff blazer, folio tucked like a hymn book. Calvin preened. "Evie, this is Miss Pierce. She helps families plan." I set coffee, poured slow, bought time. Darla opened the folio. Out came a living trust, a transfer on death deed, a durable power, and a confidential addendum with a signature line for Mama 3 times the size of the rest. "We'll just notarize right here," she sang. "So convenient." "Counters are convenient," I said. "Banks, courthouse, daylight." Calvin's jaw twitched. "We don't need town. We got a notary." "Mobile notaries stand at counters too," I said. "How do you know Mama's signature?" Darla flashed the stamp. "State commissioned, ma'am." The state didn't meet my mother. She slid the forms over like they were buttered. "Mrs. Mercer, sign here, here, and initial here." Mama picked up the pen the way you pick up a snake by the tail. I slid the clerk's copies onto the table between us. Here's the current deed, I said. Here's the legal description. Here's the title history. Before any change, I need a minute with my— I let the word hang. Client. Calvin leaned back, proud as a rooster. Your mama's no client. She's my wife. Wives can be clients. Clients can be wives. Either way, nobody signs in a kitchen without witnesses. Right then, Nate stepped into the doorway with two men in feed caps. Neighbors who learned the counter rule when a fake roofing crew tried to strip their barn. Behind them came Mr. Foley in his bank tie, because favors breed favors. I'd told him there might be a funny transfer on death deed trying to slide through his branch. He'd come to watch with a neutral face and a legal pad. Darla's smile cracked. We don't need an audience. Important papers enjoy them, I said. She pivoted to Mama, quicker than a hawk. Mrs. Mercer, this trust will protect you. You'll have income and avoid probate. Calvin will remain trustee, and this addendum ensures household management stays with experienced hands. I plucked the addendum. Funny. The addendum lists Darla Pierce as successor trustee if Calvin becomes incapacitated. You move fast. Calvin shot her a look he thought no one would notice. We talked about help. You talked about headlines, I said. Your name on gifts at church. Your name on a plaque. He went red. Evie, don't be crude. Mr. Foley coughed into his cuff. Ms. Pierce, would you mind showing your notary journal? She didn't blink. Left it in the car. Against state law, Mr. Foley said mildly. Journals travel with stamps. Nate stepped closer to the window, flipped the shade up so the last light hit the table. Papers look worse in glare. The legal description on Darla's deed used 3 commas where our plats used 2. The parcel number was 1 digit off. Small errors that blow up fast. On purpose if you want to slide a second deed later. I circled them with a pencil. Typo or trap? Darla kept her voice sweet. Clerical oversight? Which clerk? I asked. I'd hate to embarrass a public servant. She lifted her stamp again, but even Calvin could smell the scorch now. He went cold. Louise, go get my ledger. We'll do this proper when we've checked everything. Darla pressed. Timing matters, Mr. Mercer. If we don't record by tomorrow, new fees. Tomorrow's Sunday, I said. Her eyes cut to mine. Snake to boot heel. Then Monday. Counters open at 8, Mr. Foley said. You can meet us there. That ended phase 1. Darla Trash smiled, gathered her papers, and left with promises. Nate followed her truck out to the gravel and wrote down the plate. Mr. Foley squeezed my elbow. If she brings those to my branch, I'll call the recorder and the sheriff at the same time. We weren't done. Con men don't go home after 1, no. They go around. That night, I moved Mama into the main wing, slid a chair under her doorknob, and brewed a pot that could strip paint. At dawn, I called the recorder and placed an informal alert, the Mercer parcel. Possible fraudulent conveyance, escalate to council. Then I drafted 3 letters, revoking any prior powers of attorney nobody remembered signing, commanding banks to freeze any trust accounts pending legal review, and ordering Darla, by certified mail, to cease contact with Louise Mercer. I copied everything twice and put 1 set in Mama's Bible. People don't steal from Bibles in houses that fear God, even if they should. Darla tried the bank before lunch. Foley met her with glass and formality. "We'd be delighted to assist," he said, loud enough for the lobby. "Please step to the counter so we can verify the trust, the parcel, and the notary journal." She left without a deposit slip. By 3, she'd turned to the backdoor trick, an emergency notarization in a pickup, a man in a feed cap ready to witness for cash. Nate walked up with his foreman face and asked for ID. The witness didn't have any. The pickup rolled. At 4, the sheriff's cruiser idled under our maple. I hadn't called him. The deputy had seen Darla's truck making house stops on his beat and recognized the pattern. He took my packet and said the 4 words I like better than apologies. "We'll take it from here." Calvin sulked until supper, then worked the same old lever. "You're dramatic, Evie. I was protecting your mother." "You were protecting your name," I said. "I did the same. You can thank me or you can hush." He chose hush. Smart for once. That night I wrote the rule on a card and taped it above Mama's stove. No porch signings, counters only. Names spelled right, dates checked twice. 2 witnesses with 2 IDs. She read it out loud like a prayer. A week later, the recorder's office sent a note. Attempted filing rejected. Incorrect parcel number, defective notary, signature mismatch. County Council opened an investigation. Darla's truck stopped showing up on county roads. Folks said she moved 2 counties over. Scams travel, but so do rules. On Thursday, I told the church crowd the story without names. We passed around a blank transfer on death deed so everyone could learn where danger hides, in addenda, in commas, in help. Mrs. Alvarez stood, thin as twine, and said, "My brother brought a man like that last month. I told him we only sign where the lights hum." We built a new move that night. Counter ambush. If a slick stranger tries a kitchen put over, 3 neighbors show with clipboards. One calls the bank. One reads parcel numbers. One holds a phone to a deputy. The rest make coffee and keep time slow. Arthur listened, wiping his hands on a rag from the garage, and shook his head. "Never thought a stapler could hit harder than a wrench." "Depends where you swing," I said. Calvin didn't become better. He became careful. He moved slower around paper and stopped inviting helpers. The family did the same. Ray called once, asking if I'd look at a contract for a crew he wanted to run in Arkansas. I said yes, at a counter. He didn't come. People who want tricks hate bright rooms. Years later, when Mama died, we filed her name on the appropriate line. No trusts, no surprises. The clerk handed me the stamped copy and said, "That's clean work." I walked it to the counter anyway and made 1 more copy for the church kit. If you want the lesson neat, fists bruise and fade, paperwork bruises and stays. Learn it, teach it, use it like a pry bar. When a predator says, "Sign here, save time, set a chair, lift the shade, and invite an audience," monsters don't like humming lights or lined forms. They go quiet, and quiet is where you win. Part 5. The Title Trap. The envelope looked like church mail. Cream paper, blue ink, a crosshair of kindness. Inside, a courtesy notice from Heartland Servicing, welcoming Mama to her new reverse mortgage, new like a knife. Loan number, payment due, and a line that makes old folks faint. Failure to comply may result in foreclosure. At the bottom, a notary stamp I didn't recognize, and a deed of trust moving our roof from Louise Mercer to a shell with a P.O. box. Ray's fingerprints without the courage of a signature. I didn't call him. I checked the recorder's site. There it sat. Transfer on death affidavit. Filed 2 days earlier, notarized at 8:11 p.m. in a zip code where the DMV closes at 5. The signatory? Louisa Mercer. Misspelled, shaky script. The notary's commission had expired last spring. I built a kit on the table. Stapler, yellow pad, my embosser, a clean flash drive, and went to work. Step 1. Freeze the fiction. I drafted a fraudulent instrument affidavit with 4 exhibits. A. Mama's driver's license with correct spelling. B. Dr. Patel's note that she never left the house that evening. C. The notary's expired commission lookup. D. A copy of our previously recorded Notice of Personal Residence Claim. I attached a 2-sentence declaration from our mail carrier. I deliver here daily. Ms. Mercer is alive and at this address. I walked it to the recorder at opening bell and paid for a same-day indexing. Paper versus paper. Make yours heavier. Step 2. Cut the servicer's legs. I called Heartland's fraud line and spoke in their dialect. Dispute under 15 U.S.C. 1692G. Forced sale risk. Cease collection pending investigation. You're on notice of a recorded fraud affidavit. Validate your chain or withdraw. I emailed a PDF packet while I said it. The agent stopped script reading and asked for time. You have until 4, I said. After that, I file a complaint with the AG and the CFPB. Attach your vendor's name. I like lists. Step 3. Find the notary. Her stamp read, Trina Hale. A quick search brought up a strip mall mailbox store with a neon Copies 10 Sierra sign. I drove with Arthur and a thermos. The bell dinged. A teenager looked up from a phone. Trina in? I asked. Break, he said. Tell her a woman with an expired memory wants to see her expired commission, I said, laying a printed copy of her state record on the counter. He shifted. A door squeaked. Trina stepped out. Cardigan, nervous smile. Just a mistake, she said too fast. The stamp order got delayed. Your stamp is a crime, not a delay, I said. So is a deed signed by a woman who was home watching the farm report. You're going to fix the record right now. How? You're going to execute an acknowledgement of error and identify the man who brought you the papers. You'll also consent to a recorded notary misconduct complaint. In exchange, I won't stand here and read the statute to your customers. Her chin trembled. I just witnessed what they put in front of me. Then you didn't witness, I said. Pick a lane. We sat at the little shipping table. She wrote while I spoke. Names, time, cash paid, a phone number labeled G. Ames. Not my Miss Ames. A burner name worn like a mask. She signed the acknowledgement. I notarized her signature with my commission, clean, current, unimpeachable, and made 3 copies. I slid one across to her. Call your insurer. Tell them you have exposure. Then go home. Step 4. Follow the breadcrumbs. The phone number traced to a traveling signing agent service with a website full of stock photos and testimonials that sound like spam. I booked an appointment under an alias and set the meet for that afternoon at the church hall. Our territory, our lights, our witnesses. I called the sheriff's fraud detective and the state notary enforcement officer. Training demo, I said. Seats available. Front row. At 2, a man in a charcoal suit arrived with a leather folder and breath like mints. Mr. Ames? I asked. He nodded too politely. I led him to a table under buzzing fluorescents where 3 women from clinic pretended to fill out W-9s. Detective Lawson stood by the coffee urn reading a brochure. The state officer leafed through sample deeds. Ames opened his folder. We just need a few signatures from Ms. Mercer to clear up title. Small oversight. We can do it in 5 minutes. Read step 1, I said, sliding him a laminated card. No porch signings. No rush. Sit, read, call. He smiled like a salesman and turned a page. The top document. A new deed, transferring the house into a trust with Ray as trustee. The second, a loan agreement with Heartland Servicing. The third, a limited power of attorney pre-filled with Mama's name. He took out a stamp. We can get this done fast. Or slow, I said, nodding at the detective. Lawson stepped forward. Name? He asked. Gail Ames. ID. Ames handed over a license that didn't like him. Lawson scanned it with a pocket reader. It chirped red. Counterfeit, Lawson said, gentle like he was telling a kid he'd scraped a knee. The state officer lifted the folder and checked the notary block. Expired commission on that stamp, she said, and the venue is wrong. The room tightened. Ames tried charm. Misunderstanding. Conspiracy to commit filing fraud, Lawson said, cuffing one wrist. And a bad day. Ames didn't fight. He glanced around for allies and found hymnals. I texted Heartland a photo of the cuffs and the officer's business card. Their legal department called in 20 minutes. We've flagged the account and withdrawn all activity, a woman said. We appreciate your documentation. You'll also send a letter on letterhead acknowledging the error and confirming no lien was placed, I said. By email now, by post tomorrow. Copy the recorder. She agreed. When people get caught, they learn to conjugate confirm. Ray called at dusk, voice smoky. You had him arrested? He arrested himself, I said. You just sent the invitation. You think you can run the family? I run paper, I said. You can buy a stamp. You can't buy me. He hung up. The silence that followed didn't feel like victory. It felt like a hinge set back on its pins. We finished with fixtures. I recorded, notice of claim of forgery, tied to the instrument number, so any title search shouts fraud in red. I filed a no trespass letter. With the sheriff naming Ray and any agent acting for him, it gives deputies teeth when a man shows up with forms and a smile. Mama signed a revocable transfer on death deed house to me and Nate jointly, same exit as before, but clean, witnessed, and recorded now, not in crisis. If one of us dies first, the other can still steer. Thursday night, I rewrote the clinic handout. New title, Deed Theft Drill. It fit on one page. 1. Recorder bookmark. Record a residence claim and pre-need deed if your state allows it. 2. Bank code word, always. 3. Notary check. Verify commissions online, expired, void. 4. Sting lights. Meet signers in public rooms with witnesses. Fluorescents beat porches. A woman raised a hand. What if the thief is blood? Blood doesn't change ink, I said. Make the county your cousin. Mama ate cobbler and watched the 10 o'clock farm prices. That boy Ray's gonna die mad, she said. He can die however he wants, I said, stacking copies into a neat pile. Will die recorded. The old recorder lives in my kitchen drawer beside a fresh notary stamp and a folder labeled Fires I've Put Out. People think revenge is shouting. It isn't. It's filings that outlive tempers, lights that never go off, deputies who know your dog's name, and a county computer that coughs up fraud affidavit. The next time some man with a shiny folder says, sign here, like a blessing. Part 6. The Guardianship, Gambit. Ray didn't lick his wounds. He shopped for a different weapon. Foreclosure failed? Try court. The packet arrived on a Tuesday, hand-delivered by a process server who looked sorry he had a job. Petition for emergency guardianship of Louise Mercer, alleging confusion, neglect, unsafe living conditions, and a daughter, interfering with medical care. Hearing set for Kaikorn, 48 hours. Out, ex parte possible. At the bottom, a doctor's evaluation from a clinic Mama has never stepped inside, notarized by, guess who, Trina's friend with another magic stamp. Ray wasn't after care. He wanted control. A court order beats a porch key. I didn't pace. I packed. Kit on the table. Mama's pill log. Home health visit notes. Photos of the ramp Arthur built last spring. A copy of Dr. Patel's real capacity evaluation from last month. Our advance directive. Naming me and Nate as agents, the no trespass already on file, and 5 affidavits I could get signed before sundown. I slid stamps and a fresh toner cartridge into my bag. You don't win hearings with tears. You win with paper the judge can touch. Step 1. Chop the sham eval. I drove to the clinic on the petition. 2 rented rooms above a pawn shop. The name on the letterhead belonged to a physician who moved states 3 years ago. The exam signature matched nothing. I printed the state medical board's status page and an overlay of the signature from his last public form. Not even close. Exhibit A. Step 2. Build a daybook. I typed a 1-page functional snapshot. For Mama. Wake time, breakfast, 1 egg, toast, vitals, who visits and when, which bills she pays herself, gas, water, and which I auto-pay with her consent. Photos of the clean kitchen, labeled meds, and the church calendar with her name on Thursday quilt group. Judges like routine more than adjectives. Step 3. Witnesses who aren't me. Dr. Patel signed a capacity note in his own neat hand. Ms. Mercer is oriented to person, place, and date, understands property and consequences, makes her own decisions. Pastor Briggs wrote a 3-liner on letterhead. She reads scripture aloud weekly. She leads sign-ins. She corrects me when I skip announcements. The mail carrier, Tina, swore she chats with Mama at the box every morning at 10:15. Nate provided a yard ledger of who mows, who hauls, who checks the smoke detectors. Neighbor kids added a photo of Mama handing out popsicles on Sunday. Real life beats Ray's adjectives. Step 4. Service your own canon. I e-filed a motion to dismiss emergency with exhibits and a request for sanctions. For false statements and notary fraud, then hand-delivered a courtesy binder to the clerk with tabs and a candy bar. Clerks move mountains for people who make their day easier. Ray tried to jump us with a wellness check the night before court. 2 deputies and a woman from Adult Protective Services at dusk. We met them on the stoop under a bright porch bulb. Arthur handed coffee. Mama showed her pantry, her medication caddy, and the quilts she's finishing for the church bazaar. APS lady glanced at my binder, smiled like she'd smelled a skunk and found the door. We'll note no concerns, she said. Deputies scratched the dog and left. Court morning, I wore the same black skirt I wore to Calvin's facility. Respect without theater. Mama insisted on coming. They can see who I am, she said. Lipstick perfect. Nate drove. Ray arrived with a suit 2 payments behind and a lawyer from a billboard. He tried the hallway stare. I opened my binder. The pages made that crisp sound paper makes before it ruins someone's plan. Inside, the judge, McAdams, the one who hates surprises, looked over her glasses. Emergency petitions are extraordinary, she said. You'd better show me a fire. Ray's lawyer started with a speech about vulnerable elders and isolation. The judge held up a hand. Evidence. He handed over the sham eval. I slid my overlay across with the medical board printout. The judge compared, sighed the sigh of a woman who has graded too many poor papers. Where is this physician? She asked. In another state, I said. Hasn't practiced here since 2022. That signature is from a magazine ad. The judge turned to Ray. Did you know this? Ray's jaw worked. I hired a service. You hired a shortcut. She set the eval aside like a dirty plate. I called Dr. Patel by phone. He spoke in clean sentences. Pastor Briggs waved from the back and got sworn in. Tina from the post office testified about 10-15 chats. The APS note landed like a brick. No evidence of neglect. Home safe. Client competent. Mama answered 3 questions herself. Her name, her street, today's date, then looked the judge in the eye. And my favorite hymn is Leaning on the Everlasting Arms, which this court could use more of, she said, and the gallery chuckled. Ray's lawyer tried a pivot. Family disputes, daughter's financial control. So I slid forward bank statements showing joint signatures, the advance directive, and the durable power of attorney say. Executed 2 years ago in front of our attorney and a notary with a commission that hasn't even yawned yet. I added the no trespass and the prior Saish fraud affidavit. That put Ray's name in the index like a caution sign. Judge McAdams closed the file. Petition denied. Emergency dismissed with prejudice. Fees to respondent. Mr. Mercer, step to the podium. Ray shuffled up. The judge's voice sharpened. You will not file again without sworn competent medical evidence and notice to counsel. You will not use unlicensed evaluators or expired notaries in my county. You will not weaponize this court to grab property. One more stunt, and I'll refer you for criminal contempt. She signed the order with a thick pen that could have been a gavel. Her clerk stamped, denied, in a red that looked like fresh paint. The sound echoed like chain dropping off a gate. Outside, Ray hissed, You think this is over? I smiled the way Aunt Lois used to when a laboring mother thought she was done at 7 centimeters. No, I said. I think you're out of easy sins. We didn't go home. We went straight to the recorder and filed 2 more fortifications. Guardian pre-need nomination. Naming me first, Nate second, with 3 alternates from church, all initialed by Mama in blue ink on video under good light. Public notice of prior court findings. A short document referencing the case number and outcome, so any title search or future judge sees dismissed with prejudice before Ray finishes a sentence. Then we visited Trina's shop one last time. It was dark. A for lease sign sagged in the window. Turns out her insurer moved faster than gossip. Thursday clinic, I added a new drill. Guardianship checkmate. It fit below. Deed theft, on the same handout. 1. Keep a real capacity letter. Refreshed yearly. 2. Advance directive. Durable POA, recorded or at least widely copied. 3. Third-party eyes. Pastor, mail carrier, nurse, anyone who'll swear to routine. 4. Court kit. 1 binder, tabbed, candy bar for the clerk. A woman raised her hand. What if the judge doesn't listen? Change the room, I said. AG complaint. Press if you must. Truth hates corners. Mama napped that afternoon, quilt half done over her knees. I fixed the back door latch and labeled 2 new folders. Court fires out, and fires likely. Arthur sharpened mower blades like men do when they need to keep their hands busy and their hearts steady. At dusk, Nate sat on the steps, hat in hand. "He'll try probate next," he said. "I know," I said. "So we make probate boring." "How?" "Will's already executed. TOD deed clean, bank beneficiaries named, inventory updated, receipts in a shoebox with copies at church. No room for drama. When men can't find chaos, they wander." He nodded. The streetlights blinked on. Somewhere, a neighbor kid practiced trumpet. I poured mint tea that tasted like Aunt Lois's kitchen and drew a small box on my yellow pad. Inside it, I wrote a single word. Finish. That's for the last part, but you can see the shape. Men like Ray always pick a bigger hammer. I keep handing the county a better nail. You don't scream your way out of cages that were built with paper. You file your way out. You witness your way out. You teach your way out, until even the courthouse learns your name means no hacker. To tricks and sighing mice. Yes, mice. To light. Next Friday, I'll buy bread again. And if a man shows with a folder, I'll point to the fluorescent bulbs and the counter and say it one more time. If it matters, it stands here. Part 7. Bright room, last door. Mama didn't slow down. She landed the way pilots like, a clean glide. One quiet Sunday, quilt on her knees, hymn radio low, she took a nap that didn't end. Arthur called the time. I called Pastor Briggs. Nate folded the quilt. We moved like folks who've rehearsed life enough to handle death without wreckage. Ray showed up at dusk with sunglasses and a hug he hadn't earned. "I'll take it from here," he said, already dialing. I took the phone out of his hand and handed him the plan. "Already done," I said. "Funeral Thursday. Paid. Obituary drafted by Mama last year. On file at the paper. Estate? Non-probate transfers. You won't need to take anything." He gave that laugh mean men use when they think they found a gap. "We'll see what the cut will sound says." "There is a will," I said, "and it's boring. He hates boring." We ran the checklist that night. Death certificates. Ordered, 10 copies. Transfer on death deed. Filed last spring, vesting the house to me and then to the church if I predecease. Recorded, indexed, and stamped with a recorder's note big as a barn. Beneficiaries, named on every account. Bank, CD, life insurance. Updated in May with video of Mama initialing every page, pastor and nurse witnessing under good light. Small estate affidavit, drafted for anything stray. Inventory. Typed, serial numbers noted, photos in a shared drive and 2 envelopes, one in my freezer, one in the church safe. I wrote, "No cash in house," on a sticky and stuck it to the fridge for anyone tempted to help. By Tuesday, the first shot arrived. A codicil, faxed from Mercer and Boyd attorneys, giving Ray temporary management over real and movable property. Signature scrawled, date last week, notary, their favorite, revived under a new name. The letterhead belonged to a firm that dissolved in 2019. "Cute," I said, and started the counter move. I called D.A. Harper's fraud unit and our AG's notary hotline. I emailed scans with a subject line that does most of the lifting. Forged testamentary instrument attempt. Prior court sanctions attached. I included the case number from the guardianship denial and the notary complaint already on file. Then I set the sting. Nate, bless him, met Ray at the gate with a straight face. "Evie's rattled," he said. "Bring your codicil to the viewing. We'll sign a family agreement if you show good faith." Ray took the bait like a bass in July. Thursday morning, I turned the church's side classroom into a bright room trap. 2 LED panels, a document stand, a body cam on my lapel, the clerk's office on speaker, and Deputy Salazar sitting off to the side in a suit that said, "Insurance adjuster," if you weren't paying attention. On the table, the real will, 2018, the TODI deed, the beneficiary designations, and a fresh pen that left a pressure pattern you can spot from space. Ray walked in with a folder fat with confidence. He slid the codicil across. "Mama wanted me to have stewardship," he said, as if the word could hide the grab. I didn't argue. I measured. Letterhead mismatch, the firm's old address, the zip code changed in 2016. Notary seal with a commission number retired last year and a misspelled county. Signature stack wrong. Mama's G and Gardner opened counterclockwise. This one curled the other way. I laid a ruler on the date line. "Fun fact," I said. "This model of ballpoint wasn't sold in the U.S. until 4 months ago, but your notary stamped this last year. Time travel? Bold." He reached for the paper. Deputy Salazar laid 2 fingers on it. "Sir, this is now evidence." Calm as a pond. Ray tried the door. 2 more deputies were already there, hats in hand, tender as ushers. They didn't cuff him in front of the casseroles. They asked him to step outside to talk. He did. Trina's replacement notary got her own ride later. By evening, the DA had opened and, uttering a forged instrument sound case with attempted theft by deception, stapled on top, "We buried Mama under a sky she would have called good laundry weather." The choir did leaning, slightly flat, and exactly right. In the fellowship hall, I set a sign by the punch, "No estate advice given here. See Saturday clinic." People laughed, then came anyway. Probate tried to start itself like an old tractor. It sputtered and quit. The TOD deed walked the house straight to me, title clean. The bank paid out to the named folks, recorded and done. The will, when lodged, had nothing left to feed. Judge McAdams signed an order that might as well read, "No drama found." I framed a copy behind the counter at the clinic. Ray pled out in the fall. Fines, community service at the county warehouse, a no contact order renewed, and a notation that will light up any background check like a harvest moon. He moved 2 counties over to run a framing crew. The men there already know. Don't hand him a clipboard. I didn't hold a victory party. I ordered more toner. The clinic changed after that. We got a grant, small, steady, no strings, and built the Bright Room Brigade. 10 volunteers, 2 rolling carts, 1 copier that thinks it's a champion. We run 3 stations. 1. Proof bank. Birth certs, IDs, SS cards scanned and sealed in envelopes with a flash drive taped inside. Redundant where redundancy counts. 2. Paper armor. Advanced directives, POAs, TOD deeds, beneficiary updates, all filled slow under fluorescent light. If it's real, it stands. 3. After plan. Obits written ahead, passwords printed, inventory lists started before anyone is grieving and dumb. Once a month we do court drill. Folks practice handing a judge a tidy binder and saying, "Your Honor, here are the exhibits." We remove adjectives until the story fits on 3 tabbed pages. You'd be shocked how many storms end when the clerk smiles. Nate bought a second tractor. Arthur still labels every jar in the pantry. My granddaughter, Tess, runs our Teen Counterfeit Club at the library, teaching kids how to spot fake seals and bad signatures the way other kids learn guitar chords. Last week she asked if we really need the old recorder anymore. "Yes," I said, tapping the drawer. I keep tools that work. On Fridays, I still buy bread. The bus exhales at the corner, and sometimes a man shows up with a folder and the old sly grin. I don't slam doors. I point to the bright room, turn on every light, and lay down a pen that makes deep grooves. Here's the whole thing, boiled down small enough to write inside a ring. Pick the lever, set the light, write it down. File first. Teach someone. Men like Calvin choose title over habit. Men like Ray choose shortcuts and get caught in the light. Women like me stop waiting for rescue, build counters, and leave maps. If you're penned in by someone's rules, go find the paper they fear most and learn it better than they do. Then make them choose on the record. When I lock up after clinic, I take one last look at that recorder between the jar opener and the stamps. It's quiet. That's the point. Monsters love hurry and hush. We broke both. The counter is bright. The room is full. The door with the bolt is gone.